Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am David Vitale, President of the Chicago Board of Education, and on behalf of my fellow members, I want to welcome you to today's Chicago Board of Education meeting. Today is February 23rd, 2013, and we are holding this month's meeting here at the Board Chambers, 125 South Clark. I would like to note that our previously scheduled March 27th board meeting falls in the midst of spring break. And as I'm sure almost all of you are aware, we did change the calendar for reasons that we all understand. And so that date now falls in spring break week. And so we are going to move the March board meeting to accommodate the schedules of everybody. And we are proposing that we reschedule the meeting to Wednesday, April 3rd, 2013. We have with us today a new shadow student, and Marquise, our regular student board member, will take this opportunity to introduce Asia Miles Funches. Marquise?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Today, I have a pleasure to introduce to you and the fellow board members, Miss Asia Miles Funches. Asia is currently a junior at Johnson College Prep, a campus of the Noble Network of Charter Schools. Asia is the president of Student Council, vice president of the Key Club, and a member of Early College Scholars Program and the Teen Esteem Mentoring Program. Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity to introduce Ms. Miles Funches. You have anything to say, Asia?
Yes.
Don't press it.
Okay. Yes, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Marquise, for introducing me. President Vitale and members of the board, thank you. I would like to start by expressing my appreciation to having students involved in these monthly meetings here at the Chicago Public Schools, an institution that impacts our lives so greatly. Thank you for allowing me this unique experience of attending the board meeting today. I would also like to thank the Noble Network of Charter Schools and my principal, Dr. Garland Thomas, for their dedication and commitment to my education. Thank you.
Thank you, April. April and I had a chance to spend a little time talking about her experiences and what she wants to do, and one of the things that's of interest to her is political science, and I told her she's going to see democracy in action today. Welcome, April. Madam Secretary, please lead us in the pledge.
Thank you, Mr. President. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The regular meeting of Wednesday, February 27th, 2013 is hereby called to order. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Escoitia?
Present.
Dr. Beenan?
Here.
Vice President Reese?
Here.
Dr. Hines?
Here.
Ms. Pritzker?
Here.
Ms. Sapp?
Present.
President Vitale?
Here.
7 members present. There is a quorum. I would also like to recognize Dr. Barbara Bird Bennett, our Chief Executive Officer, Mr. James Bebley, our General Counsel, Asia Miles Funches, our shadow student this month, and Marquise Watson, our honorary student board member. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. As usual, we will begin our day with honoring excellence. I'm really pleased to be able to say that we're going to start by congratulating our very own Marquise Watson for being selected the first place honoree of the Union League Club of Chicago's Democracy in Action Award. The Democracy in Action Award is presented annually to Illinois high school juniors and seniors who have demonstrated exemplary citizenship and leadership in their community. Marquise, congratulations. You've proved the wisdom of our choice to have you here. Thank you. You want to say anything about it, Marquise?
Well, first off, thank you. That award is pretty. It's a pretty prestigious award. They don't just give it to just anybody. But it really was a great experience as well, receiving an award. I had to give a speech as well for that, and thank you again.
Great to have you back. Second, we would like to welcome Principal Catherine Plucker and students from Burley Elementary School. They will be performing a couple of poetry selections for us today. The Burley curriculum is focused on literature, writing, and technology, and we want to give them an opportunity to show their success.
Hi, my name is Anthony, and I have written the poem called Fear, and I'll be presenting it to you all. Fear. Fear is when you fall. Fear is when you falter. Fear is when you fail. Fear is a never-ending fight. The pain caused by fear is excruciating. Fear is your worst nightmare, but extrapolated. Fear scares you, yet fear is exhilarating and horrifying at the same time. Fear is the darkest, deepest cave where the devil roams the land. Fear will find your weakness, what you desire most, and when it does, you better be prepared. To truly live life without limits, you have to overcome your greatest fear. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Adrienne Corey, and I'm a 5th grader at Burley Elementary School, and I'll be reading a poem that I wrote. Read me, read me. I look at my bookshelf full of books, half I haven't read yet, some too easy, some too hard. They stare at me when I come in and when I go out. They yell, read me, read me. I tell them to be quiet. Thank you.
Hello there, my name is Maddie Yu, and I am a 5th grader at Burley Elementary School. I will be reading you a poem about fear that I did for an assignment. Fear. Fear will gobble you up, feasting on your willpower, leaving you defenseless, leaving you scared. Fear. Fear is a weakness that everyone knows, that everyone is familiar with, that makes anyone uncomfortable. Fear. Fear is very hard to fight, but in the end, it is all right. Facing fears makes you stronger. You won't be scared for too much longer.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming down and sharing your creativity with us. Principal, would you care to say anything? Oh, I guess not.
Thank you for recognizing Burley, giving us this chance to share our students' work. We appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank you all. Thanks for coming. Barbara.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the board. And thank the young people for their poetry this morning. Incredibly inspiring, and I understand fear. So thank you for that pep talk as well. Since I came to the Board of Education as the CEO of the Chicago Public Schools, I placed a significant emphasis on our efforts to ensure the continuity of instruction and that each student is progressing in their education. When a student gets off track, it's our responsibility to get them back on the track for success. And this is why we placed an emphasis and will continue to place a significant emphasis on our student on track measures, which are not just about paper and pencil test. The student on track metric is a critical indicator of how our schools and our students are performing, and it will provide the district with important information about when and how to intervene to support our students. Our emphasis on this metric ties to the Consortium of Chicago Schools research that states that being on track is an important indicator of whether a student will graduate. While we originally started tracking this metric with high school freshmen, The work has now been extended to grades 3 through 11 and will be completely operationalized in 2013. This month, we're proud to honor 3 schools that had the highest percentage of freshmen on track to graduate for the first semester of this school year. Freshmen who are designated on track are 3.5 times more likely to graduate from high school in 4 years than students who are off track. Freshmen are considered on track if they accumulate at least 5 course credits and fail no more than 1 semester course in a course subject during that school year. It is not by happenstance that the schools we honor today have our district's highest freshman on track grades. Rather, it is a direct result of a remarkable work of the principals, incredibly dedicated teachers, and motivated students and families. So it is a privilege to honor Infinity Math, Science, and Technology High School, Jones College Prep, Sarah E. Good STEM Academy High School, and thanks again to the hard work of the entire school community. Your students are not only on track to graduate, but to succeed in college, career, and life. Thank you for the incredibly good work. And at this time, I'd like to invite the honored principals to say a few words about your on-track efforts.
Good morning, members of the board, Dr. Bennett. I stand here actually feeling like Forrest Gump because, I retired in June and they called me back to be the administrator in charge of Infinity High School. And I brought with me the team that is actually responsible for this because through their efforts in making sure that students are giving tutoring after school with no pay, Saturday classes to keep them on track, and also a clerk who, when she calls, I get scared. Ms. Juanita Saucedo, calling every single day and minute so these students are in school. I think that it's a model that's very easy to follow, and you can see it's very successful. Thank you.
On behalf of the Sarah E. Good STEM Academy family, I'm honored to accept this award. We know that high school is not enough. And so it's our vision that our students not only graduate with a high school diploma, but with an associate's degree as well. And so we understand the importance of the freshman on track metrics. And we, again, thank you for honoring us today.
Thank you for this opportunity to recognize the efforts of our students and staff at Jones College Prep. We're especially proud of the efforts that we've been able to put together in building partnerships among faculty members and students and parents and other resources in the community. I especially like to recognize our assistant principal, Carolyn Round, who's with me here today, and Ms. Christine Malabranche, who is our Director of Student Services and our RTI coordinator as well. Through their efforts, they highly individualize the contact with these kids to make sure that if anyone is starting to weaken academically and having problems in terms of academic achievement, they are there to support them, to encourage them, to enlist all the resources necessary. So I want to send that thanks out to everybody on our team. Thank you.
Mr. Vitale, if I may, I'd be very remiss not to mention Ms. Patricia Brecky, the former principal of Infinity High School, because it was her efforts that really are responsible for this.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Well, thank you all. We know statistically how important this freshman year is and to get our children started on the right track in high school, and you've set great examples, and the dedication that you've obviously represented of the staffs that have done that. We really appreciate it, and we know everybody is working hard in that regard, but it's always nice to be up front, and we're really pleased to have you here representing everybody that's doing that hard work. So thank you very much for coming. We will now proceed with the business portion of the meeting. And Barbara, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the board. As the board is aware, the district has been engaged in a community process for meaningful and deep, instructive conversation about how to best handle the district's utilization challenges. In an environment in which the district is faced with a $1 billion deficit for each of the next 3 fiscal years, it is imperative that we take and make responsible decisions, very difficult decisions, in order to guarantee our ability to fully invest in the success of every child in our community. Today, about half of the district schools are underutilized. We operate space for 511 students, and we have nearly 403,000 students. The numbers and the data tell most of the story. The fact is that children in underutilized schools are more likely to be in split grade classes. They're more likely to lack access to art, music, that we believe are an integral part of a basic curriculum. Too often, our children in underutilized schools lack much of the support staff they need, such as nurses and counselors, or fail to receive intervention services to prevent them from falling behind their peers. I believe that we need to take meaningful action this year to address the problem. I committed early on to our parents and school communities that we would work together collaboratively on the front end of the process. And I promised to ensure that every voice would be heard, because every voice matters. It matters particularly when it comes to providing a high-quality, well-rounded education for all of our students. As a first step in the process, we appointed an independent commission on school utilization. That commission has held 10 public hearings and received feedback from over 1,500 members of the community. Last month, the commission presented its report and recommendations to the district. And based on the feedback of the informed communities, I received those recommendations, and we removed high schools from consideration, all level 1 schools that are in the process of adding grades, schools with over 600 students, schools that are close to efficient utilization, which we define as 70 to 79% capacity range. And we remove schools that are sustaining and improving performance from consideration for consolidation or closure. In addition to the work of the commission, the district has been leading our intensive community engagement process. To date, we've held over 30 community meetings in every neighborhood and every school network in the district. We have met in schools, churches, community centers, and we've received input from over 18,000 citizens in the past 3 weeks. The process is far from over. We are hosting an additional 9 community meetings between today and March 4th. And I do urge everyone to participate and lend their voice and their knowledge to the process. In the past several weeks, I've spent a lot of hours reading through lots and lots of pages of information that has been garnered from the community meetings. And based on the community feedback, the district developed an initial set of objective criteria for making determinations about the underutilized schools. We will not close, and I emphasize, we will not close or consolidate an underutilized school where there are isolated pockets next to the closest neighborhood elementary school. We will not consider closing underutilized schools that have been designated as welcoming schools in the last 3 years or were part of a co-location last year. We will not close or consolidate underutilized schools that have high enrollment this school year that they did, a higher enrollment this school year than they did in 2010. And we will not close a school or consolidate underutilized elementary schools that are surrounded by efficient and or overcrowded schools. These criteria and recommendation of the commission were all based on what we've heard from the local communities. Effectively, it removed over 200 underutilized schools from consideration. And now there remains 129 schools for consideration. We have much more work to do before I can bring a recommendation forward to this board for consideration. And I will not consider closing any school where I do not have confidence that the children will have a safe and smooth transition at a welcoming school next fall. I'm working closely with parents, principals, our faith-based community leaders, the Chicago Police Department, and our own safety and security team to ensure the safety of every school in any school that is being considered. We cannot make the investment we need in our next generation if we continue to maintain the current status quo. Our already limited resources are spread much too thin. And by taking action to downsize or to right size or whatever language we want to give to it, but to make certain that the resources are provided to every child in every neighborhood, including, as I've said, access to technology, libraries that are 21st century libraries, art, music, and critical support staff, nurses, and professional counselors. The community input has driven every step of the process, and I continue to encourage every member of the Chicago Public Schools community to participate, to continue to attend the upcoming meetings in their neighborhoods. We will not make a final recommendation to the board until I am confident that every member of the community in our district has had a chance to be heard and that every voice has been taken into consideration. I know we will not have unilateral agreement. I know that these are tough decisions. And like our young people read the poetry today, it is fearful, and we are fearful when there is change. But together, I do believe that we can act in a responsible way and make responsible decisions that will guarantee that all of our children are well-rounded in an environment that provides everything that we all want for our own biological children. And that's my update on the process thus far. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Dr. Bird Bennett on this? Thank you. Dr. Bennett.
I'd like to now move into the charter conversation, if you will. Today, my team will make a presentation to the board on 2 key recommended policy changes, as well as our recommendations for charter schools in general. As you know, the Chicago Public Schools has high expectations for the success of every child in every classroom in every neighborhood. At CPS, we require all of our schools, whether neighborhood or charter, to provide students with a rigorous and high-quality academic foundation that they need to succeed. That's why we are steadfast in our desire to hold every school, to the same high expectation. If charter school operators fail to meet their commitments and cannot ensure that their students will receive high-quality educational opportunities, then we, I believe, have an obligation to demand more from them and to take the steps necessary to pursue the closing of their campuses. That is why today I'm announcing the creation of a charter school warning list. This list is designated to ensure that we are providing the high-quality education that we want for all of our children and that our children deserve. We are putting schools that are not making progress to our standard on notice that we will take significant action if a failure to perform at a high level persists. The warning designation is given to our charter schools that have fallen short of meeting their academic performance metrics in at least 2 of the 3 last years. This includes both the school's ability to outperform comparison schools and the ability to meet an absolute academic target as outlined in the charter contract. Each of the 6 charter schools on the warning list must show improvement before the end of the 2012-2013 school year. If any of these schools do not demonstrate improvement by September 2013, when the data reporting for the school year is completed, that school will be required to develop and execute a remediation plan. In addition, if a school is on the list this September, we will begin the campus closure or charter revocation process, which requires schools to develop a written plan as outlined in Section 27A of the school code. This warning designation will offer my team and this board an opportunity to look at charter school performance on an annual basis and to act immediately if a charter school is not performing, rather than to wait for the renewal cycle for each charter school operator. In addition to the warning lists, we are recommending that the board act today to close through a phase-out 2 of our lowest performing charter campuses, who through our charter renewal evaluation process were found to be the lowest performing up for renewal this year. As this board is aware, we engaged in a process of evaluation for all of our charter operators for renewal this year, and our renewal recommendations today are the results of that process. I'd like to bring to the podium Jack Elsley. He is the Chicago Public Schools Chief Innovation and Incubation Officer, and he will now provide a more detailed summary of the warning list, our evaluation process for this year. Jack?
Thank you, Barbara, members of the board. So I'm here today to give a report, as Barbara said, on our charter accountability going forward, as well as our 2012-2013 renewal recommendations. The typical term of a charter is 5 years, with a comprehensive evaluation conducted at the end of that term to make a determination on renewal. While the process is currently thorough and rigorous, it doesn't allow for the level of ongoing monitoring that we believe is appropriate. So as a result, we've taken several actions that will be discussed here today that allow for more consistent charter school monitoring and accountability. Those three things that I'll discuss with you today are, one, the academic warning list, as Barbara mentioned, outcomes of current renewal evaluations, and thirdly, revising charter contracts to reflect the annual performance reviews. The warning list first. The warning list allows Chicago Public Schools to take action with charter schools on an ongoing basis based on the following core beliefs. The first is that charter schools trade increased autonomy for increased accountability. That charter schools are obligated to meet their contractual accountability. And thirdly, that historically the sole mechanism for CPS, that CPS has used for charter accountability is the renewal process, which by itself, because of its level of infrequency, is insufficient. Schools on this list have demonstrated a track record that indicates that they have not met their contractual obligations as outlined in their contracts. There are 8 schools on the warning list. The warning criteria, as Barbara stated earlier, was that they fail to meet or make standards for at least the last 2 of the 3 years, and they do not outperform their comparison school by 10% for the last 3 years. This requires a school to be failing for 2 years, which shows a trend in school performance rather than a one-year aberration. However, additional emphasis is placed on the school's neighborhood context through the comparison school metric. The school needs to outperform those schools by 10% to be moved off of the warning list. So we evaluate charter schools both on an absolute scale, as Barbara said, but also in comparison to like schools. So what happens when a school is on the warning list? First, based on contractual performance, the school is deemed to be on the warning list, and this will happen in September of 2013. And at that time, the school also receives revocation notice, and the parents are notified of such. Per the Illinois School Code guidelines, the school remediation plan is developed by the school and approved by CPS in the October and November time period. The school implements the remediation plan November through April, and then we review the performance data set forth within the plan to determine whether the goals in the plan were achieved. After doing that review, we bring to the board a recommendation regarding the school status in June. And I have on here to note that this process as laid out here will begin to take place in September of 2013 with a revised warning list based on this year's performance data. For this year, there are 8 schools on the list, as I mentioned. Those schools are Ace Tech Charter High School, Espita Charter Early College, Espita Charter Ramirez, which we are recommending for phase-out closure, Catalyst Charter Howland, CICS Basel, Galapagos Charter Campus, North Lawndale Charter High School Collins Campus, and the Shabazz High School DuSable Leadership Campus, which we are also recommending for phase-out closure. It's worth noting that in 2012, some of these schools are demonstrating, per this slide here that you see in front of you, are demonstrating some signs of progress. However, according to our standards, you must be able to demonstrate that progress is a trend and not just a one-year occurrence. And so you will find that some of those schools, even though they performed well in 2012, some of them at level 2 performance, we will be waiting to see how they perform this year to establish that trend. So I'd like to talk through the renewal process. CPS conducts a thorough and rigorous evaluation process to determine whether or not to renew a charter or contract schools. And in 2013, the process started in May 2012. We evaluated applications and data from September to December, and that culminated with public hearings and final recommendations for this board meeting in February 2013. The renewal process considers all available evidence with recommendations based on the following key criteria as outlined in the school's contracts. The first is their academic performance, the second is their financial management and their financial solvency, and third is their ability to comply with state, federal, and local regulations. When performance was in question, i.e. when a school's performance indicated that they deserved a closer look, we sent a team to conduct a site visit to collect further evidence in person. As a result of that process, here are our recommendations for renewal for this year. We are recommending that Amanla's single campus receive 5 years, the full term. Ace Tech, while making some growth, we are offering a shortened term of 3 years. Aspida, there are 3 campuses. We are closing out the Ramirez, phasing out the Ramirez campus, but recommending a 5-year renewal. For Betty Shabazz, we are recommending the DuSable phase-out closure, but also recommending a 5-year renewal. For Community Services West, we are recommending that their 1 campus receive a 3-year renewal. And for the remainder of the schools, Kip Ascend, North Lawndale, Passages, Plato, U of Chicago, UNO, Young Women's, we are asking that they all receive 5-year renewals. The criteria for shortened renewal and/or campus closure is open and available to all schools within their contracts. One or more, we require that 1 or more campuses fail to meet academic performance set forth in that charter contract, that the charter school and network fail to meet financial benchmarks set forth in their fiscal performance policy. The charter school network had significant compliance issues around special education, financial reporting, statutory compliance. They do not outperform their comparison school group, and that the renewal site visit failed to provide evidence that sufficient supports are in place to address the identified deficiencies. I'd like to note that utilization was not a criteria for these recommendations, in particular because charter schools face enrollment caps that are set by CPS, which could give a distorted picture of the school's ability to support itself and sustain its student population with our utilization formula. And the charter schools, they have autonomy to use the space as best fits their programs, but they must balance that enrollment with sufficient fiscal solvency. Moving forward, in recognition that our current contracts don't get us to the level of accountability that we would like within charter schools, as Barbara mentioned, we are going to make additions and revisions to all of our charter contracts moving forward. In order to more consistently monitor that performance for the term of the contract, all charters will have specific academic and fiscal performance targets. Failure to meet these targets may result in the closure of a campus or the revocation of the charter via the process we've laid out. These academic conditions include if any campus is rated on the lowest level of the board's school performance remediation and performance probation policy, it may be amended as it may change. In 3 to the next 5 years, the campus may automatically be closed. And the charter school must address the performance of any attendance center that currently holds a failing status. There are fiscal conditions as well. The school may be automatically closed or receive a shortened renewal if they commit a tier 1, 2, or 3 financial infraction in any year of their contract. And if the school is more than 15 days delinquent from the payroll date in their financial contributions, and we will provide, of course, written notification to the school if and when that happens. To go into specifics on each of our campuses that are receiving either shortened renewals or have campuses that are recommended for phase-out closure, I will start with the Betty Shabazz International Charter Schools Network. Betty Shabazz has received mixed academic results over the course of its contract. Whereas the flagship Shabazz campus has achieved good academic results, the Sizemore and DuSable campuses have achieved inconsistent to poor academic results. Particularly the DuSable campus, which significantly underperforms its comparison school. The Shabazz network has had mixed financial performance and faces some significant financial challenges moving forward. In particular, the Shabazz flagship campus will require ADA-related capital improvements in the first year of its new contract, estimated at around $1.5 million. Nevertheless, we are recommending Betty Shabazz for a 5-year renewal term with the phase-out of the DuSable Leadership Campus. The DuSable campus is one of the lowest performing campuses within its geographic region. That said, the 5-year renewal term will allow CPS to continue to provide unique educational opportunity to a Chicago community that desires education that is grounded in traditional African values. Moreover, it allows Betty Shabazz to continue its own internal turnaround efforts toward maturity with the elementary schools for which it has already demonstrated success. Finally, it gives Betty Shabazz adequate time to receive financial support to resolve its ADA issues at the Shabazz campus. For the Aspida Charter School, it's received mixed academic results over the course of its 5-year contract. The Hagen and Early College campuses are both making reasonable progress in 2012, but have historically realized mixed academic results. Both schools either have performed on par with their comparison schools or marginally outperformed them. The Early College campus is trending upwards in academic performance since 2010. So there are good signs. Although Mirta Ramirez is making reasonable progress in 2012, their PSAE performance across every subject area has been trending downwards since 2008. Moreover, Ramirez has a mixed record when compared with their comparison school. And finally, Ramirez would be projected to significantly perform its network average if transitioned to the new performance policy. Aspira has generally met financial terms of its contract and faces some financial challenges moving forward, but that said, it has recently changed its financial leadership they are committed to improving the financial viability of the organization. As such, we're recommending a 5-year renewal term with the phase-out of the Mirta Ramirez campus. Aspira is committed to academic excellence and accountability, and they've already demonstrated this commitment by completely reconstituting its board and the school-level administration and instructional leadership teams. They've agreed to set ambitious academic performance benchmarks approved by CPS for all of its campuses with clear outcomes for not meeting those targets. And finally, most importantly, they recognize and understand that in recognizing their poor performance, Mirta Ramirez must close via a phase-out. Ace Tech has achieved their 1-year contractual academic performance condition. The year prior, their 1-year contract prior indicated they had to achieve at least a level 2 status, and they did so. And so we are recommending them for a 3-year renewal. The school is fiscally sound, and they have completely changed their academic program over the last 2 years, which we believe has led to the demonstration of that progress that they've made. And finally, Community Services West. The team that reviewed the school determined that the academic performance framework articulated in Community Services West contract was not appropriate to determine its ability to serve the school's alternative student population. So as a result, the renewal recommendation was not based on the school's contractual quantitative academic achievement. That said, the renewal application clearly articulated a strong mission and vision, a relevant and ambitious set of academic benchmarks, and programmatic structures to realize those benchmarks and vision. Moreover, the renewal site visit indicated strong alignment amongst all the school's constituents to the mission and vision of the school and the support structures available to meet the needs of those students. CSW is currently contained within a larger parent organization that has not been able to meet fiscal targets set forth in its contract. However, we are working with them to address some of those concerns. And so therefore, we are recommending a 3-year renewal to have a more timely check-in with the school, in addition to the benchmarks in the contract that we outlined earlier. And this will allow us to provide another quality college and career-focused alternative school within a community that benefits from such a school.